Hi, good day. Let us talk about punctuations. Punctuations are marks used in writing to separate sentences and their elements and to clarify meaning. Well, I'm pretty sure that you have already encountered what punctuations are on your past grade levels, and let's just have a recap. So, what are the types of punctuations? There are three punctuation marks which are appropriate to use to end a sentence. They are the period, the question mark, and the exclamation point. Here's the period, question mark, exclamation point. The period is placed at the end of declarative sentences, statements thought to be complete, and after many abbreviations. For example, you walk in order to go to school. That's a statement, therefore, that will end in a period. And next will be the question mark. Question mark indicates a direct question when placed at the end of the sentence. So, let's give an example of a question. Is what I am saying here true? You notice the intonation true? So, in questions, interrogative questions, they are usually accompanied by intonations that indicates questions, that connotes questions. So, the next will be exclamation point. Exclamation point is used when a person wants to express a sudden outcry or add emphasis. For example, wow, OMG. Alright, so let's have a recap. Again, what are the punctuation marks that are used to end a sentence? Right. A period, an exclamation point, and a question mark. So let's now move on to another set of punctuations, which are the comma, semicolon, and colon. The comma, semicolon, and colon are often misused because they all can indicate a pause in a series. The comma is used to show a separation of ideas or elements within the structure of a sentence. Additionally, it is used in numbers, dates, and letter writing after the salutation and closing. Next will be the semicolon. Semicolon is used to connect independent clauses. It shows a closer relationship between the clauses than a period would show. Here is an example of a semicolon. It looks like a colon. So basically, semicolon is a combination of a colon and a comma. So an example of a sentence with a semicolon will be, I was hurt. I knew. She only said that to upset me. So the colon will be placed after the word hurt. I was hurt. You notice the pause as I state the sentence. I was hurt. I knew. She only said it to accept me. Alright, so let's now move on to the colon. A colon has three main uses. The first is after a word introducing a quotation, an explanation, an example, or a series. For example, I was planning to study 4 subjects: English, Filipino, Math, and Science. So the second use of a colon is if it is placed in between clauses, when the second explains the first, similar to a semicolon. For example, I didn't have time to get changed. I was already late. So as you can see, the second explains the first. So therefore, the colon is present at the sentence that I mentioned on my example sentence. The third use of a colon is for emphasis. For example, there was one thing I loved the most, my dog. So as you can see, the thought of me loving my dog was emphasized because there was a pause in the sentence where the semicolon is placed. So now, let us move on to the final pair of punctuation marks which are commonly used in the English language. They are the quotation marks and the ellipses. So here is the quotation marks and here is the ellipsis. Quotation marks are a pair of punctuation marks used primarily to mark the beginning and end of a passage attributed to another and repeated word for word. They are also used to indicate meanings and to include the unusual or dubious status of a word. For example, kayo ang boss ko. Oh, who said that? Pinoy. That was a quote or a statement that was deliberately said by him, and he was known by saying that statement, kayo ang boss ko. And my God, I hate drugs. So, President Rodrigo Duterte, my God, I hate drugs. So, we can all concur that, that statement came from him because uh, Rodrigo Duterte was the president of the Philippines and is very famous, and we know his war on drugs, and we can already get the statement as to where it came from or who said it. And the last will be the ellipsis. Ellipsis is most commonly represented by three periods. Three periods. So here's a period, and if there is three periods, that is then an ellipsis. Although it is occasionally demonstrated with three asterisks, the ellipsis is used in writing or printing to indicate an omission, especially of letters or words. Ellipses are frequently used within quotations to jump from one phrase to another, omitting unnecessary words that do not interfere with the meaning. Students writing research papers or newspapers quoting parts of speeches will often employ ellipses to avoid copying lengthy text that is not needed. An example of an ellipsis within a quotation will be when Newton stated an object at rest stays at rest and an object in motion stays in motion, he developed the law of motion. So as you can see, the ellipsis is present after the word motion, after the statement an object in motion stays in motion. That somebody who quoted what Newton did didn't see it needed to mention the other particular things that Newton stated, which will then not be connected to the topic of the statement. He developed the law of motion. So as you can see, ellipsis is used to replace the things that are not needed to be mentioned, which we can, I think, say that it is already known by the listener that what will be followed next won't be connected to the topic of the statement. Well, now let's have a recap about what we have discussed. So the punctuation marks that are used to end sentences are the period, the exclamation point, and the question mark. So followed by our discussion about the comma, semicolon, and the colon. And the last pair of punctuation marks that are often used in the English grammar are the quotation marks and the ellipsis. So that's it. I hope you learned something today, and feel free to ask me if you have questions. Good day and God bless.